Hi, everybody. Welcome back to WorkTech. It's me, George LaRocque, and we've got some more big industry funding news for you. Guild, a career opportunity platform, closed on a $175 million Series F round, bringing its total raised to $553 million. And they also announced a new valuation of $4.4 billion. Big news. And joining me is Guild's president and COO, Natalie McCullough. Welcome, Natalie.
Hi, George. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to dig into to Guild and the deal because, and I think the market will as well, because this, what's happening right now, regardless of, the economy and regardless of everything happening in the world, is the competition for talent is still top of mind everywhere, and especially for frontline workers. And everything's been accelerated. And as I'm watching the emerging trends in the market, things like learning and skills and career development and coaching are all being brought directly to the consumer. And I know Guild has a lot to say about that. So I'm so curious to learn more. And let's start by learning about you a little bit and about what a career opportunity platform is.
Great. Delighted to be here with you and talk about this. I am equally excited about what's happening in the market. I am president at Guild, and I lead a couple of areas of the business, primarily lead our work with all large employers and our work with learning partners. So I get to kind of bring those two worlds together as we think about serving adult learners and our members. I have a relatively long history in sort of future of work type businesses, including those that are really related to the people part of an organization. So have done things with people analytics in the past and other spaces like that. But been at Guild for a little while and just in love with our mission, which is to unlock opportunity for the 100 million or so Americans who do not have the skills or education needed to be prepared for the jobs of the future.
Wow, that's a great mission. And so how do those people find and access Guild? How does that work?
Yeah, so first and importantly, the way that Guild is available to individuals is by virtue of their employers. So employers who partner with Guild have made an important decision to invest in the education and the skilling and the internal mobility of their employees. We talk about that and we think about that as they are creating a culture of opportunity within their organization. And so once we partner with an employer, we launch a series of communications and we get sort of embedded into their people systems so that all of their employees know that because they work at Walmart or Target or Disney or JP Morgan Chase, they now have access to what Guild has to offer. And what Guild has to offer is a solution designed for the working adult learner. So we really meet every learner where they are, and we help them understand and think about what their starting point is, what skills they have, et cetera. And one of the things we like to talk about and educate the market about with frontline employees is that the things that show up on their LinkedIn, if they even have a LinkedIn, are the least interesting things about them and the least relevant things about them in terms of what they're capable of. So that's a pretty nuanced and interesting aspect of what we do, is sort of meeting the worker where they are and helping them understand what they can bring to the table, helping them think about the careers that are available to them, and then the education and the skilling that they might need to get prepared for the careers that they're interested in.
Interesting. So the employer's role in that whole process, is it establishing that path for the employee, or is it self-led by the employee, or maybe both?
A little bit of both, right? So employers, the first step employers make is they make the decision that they want to invest in their workforce in creating internal mobility paths. And then the second set of decisions that they make is what are the mobility paths that they believe are most strategic for their organization. And so we do a decent amount of work with employers to really isolate and crystallize the career pathways that are going to be most available to their employees. So there are a lot of unfilled jobs in technology. There are a lot of unfilled jobs related to supply chain or program management, HR. There are relatively well-defined pathways. Healthcare is a place where there is a huge workforce crisis for skilled clinicians, nurses, assistants, et cetera. And so employers, part of what they are doing, in addition to offering a general benefit to their employees, is that they are identifying pathways that will help them solve critical business problems of how do they fill these hard to fill roles. And so the employer, we work with every employer to curate a learning catalog that is the best catalog for their employees. And then we work with every employer to design a set of communications for how they make this opportunity visible to all their employees, and how they engage managers and other parts of their community to really support the program and ensure that employees are supported to invest time in their education and mobility.
Okay, so while I was, looking at your announcement, and as I've looked at your site, I noticed learning marketplace was a term that was used, and I'm curious. That can mean a lot of things, and I see it used in a lot of different ways. I'm curious how does that present itself within Guild, and how does that fit into that learning strategy that you're talking about?
Yeah, great. Maybe before I answer that question, I'll just frame up the solution sort of all up for a sec, which is
perfect.
Yeah, there's sort of a core underlying layer of the solution, which is a pretty hefty tech stack. So we have payment rails, we have UserX, we have matching programs, everything you would expect in a modern kind of B2C business, big data infrastructure. And that is a big part of what we're doing that is required to engage with members in the right way, and to create insights for employers. Another big part of the solution is our support and coaching services. So we have found that with the working adult learner population, they in many cases do not have the resources to effectively evaluate and understand and then persist with their skilling. And so we give them support with coaches. And those coaches, sometimes they're just cheerleaders. They're just helping these people understand that this is a path that's available to them and that they can do it. I can't tell you how many student stories I've listened to where the big aha moment for, a cashier or somebody working in a factory or a call center is this notion of like, I could do this. Maybe I tried community college before, it didn't work out. Oftentimes folks have gotten to this place in their life and they have a lot of baggage around what they're capable of. And so a big part of what our coaches do is they sort of unpack that baggage and they help those people see themselves as being ripe for having a career. And then they support them in thinking through how they're going to make that investment work. Because oftentimes they're juggling a job, but oftentimes they're juggling other responsibilities like family care. So it's complicated. It's complicated to be a 30-something, 40-something-year-old person who has a full-time job and also wants to invest in themselves for the next job. And our coaches are there to support that. And then the third piece, though, is the learning marketplace, which you asked about. And so we are very proud of our learning marketplace. We have curated a few hundred learning providers who have excellent programs that are both affordable and high outcome, high results for working adult learners in fields that are required and have big impact. So what you won't see in our learning marketplace is a lot of like art history degrees because there's not a lot, no offense to the art historians in the audience, but there's not a big demand for that in the world. But you will see a lot of business degrees, a lot of technical degrees, a lot of certifications around HR skills or program management or what have you. And what has been really fascinating to watch, and I think the whole kind of industry is amid this move, is the shift maybe 4 years ago, our learning marketplace was mostly degrees, undergrad degrees, some master's degrees, associates. We also have made a big investment in what we call foundational learning. So as I mentioned earlier, that we meet learners where they are. Yep. Oftentimes those learners are not quite ready for a degree or a certification. They might need English as a second language. They might need to actually complete high school. They might need some more basic kind of digital literacy skills. So we have a fairly robust set of foundational learning options. And then we have, as I was saying, 4 years ago, the degrees that sit on top of that. But what's been really fascinating in the last 2 or 3 years is the emergence of the shorter form certificate and boot camp. And how do we break it from something that would normally take many years to accomplish into more bite-sized, we call them stackable credentials. So a member might say, hey, I'm not ready to sign up to go get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, but that certificate that might take me 6 to 9 months, I could do that and I can bite it off. And I can be successful. And we love that because success begets success. And once you give somebody that sort of that boost of confidence, it makes them, even more open to what their full potential is. And so that's really the learning marketplace is a collection of high quality, affordable providers that we think are good at working with the working adult learner. I myself have a daughter who just graduated from high school, and she's going to a wonderful liberal arts college in person. She's going to have the full experience. But the reality is that is not, most of those types of institutions are not set up to serve the working adult learner. They don't have online learning. They don't have flexibility. They don't have the ability for you to sort of chart your own path in the time horizon that might suit you. And so we really have done a lot of work to go out and curate the providers who can meet that need.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm a year behind you with my daughter, so we can compare.
It's a rough year,
later.
George. I just saddle up, okay? Because it's not that easy, the process, I will say.
Yeah. And it seems like it's gotten harder, but that's a whole other conversation.
It's a different conversation. That's time. For the higher ed podcast that we can talk about.
Yeah, but I love that you've got the tech supporting, making the connections and the matching and providing the experience, but also the coaching and the content that, everybody's at a different place. And you talked about a broad spectrum, right? You talked about frontline workers, healthcare, HR. This is really any type of individual, any career path, or certifications for any of those roles. So that's a lot of ground that you're covering. So kudos to you and Guild for really not being narrowly too narrow, because I think this is something everybody needs. In the sake of time, I'd like to get into the deal a little bit.
Yeah, that's so,
right. I know that there's a big appetite for this, but I'm curious to get Guild's perspective. Why the Series F now, and what were the factors, whether it's internal and/or external, that led you to the timing?
Yeah, I think I'll take that question in two ways. The first angle on that question is in some ways, how were we able to raise a Series F right now? It's not a particularly good time for fundraising, to put it mildly. And I think that is a testament to two things. One is the solution that we have built and the team we've built. So we'll take a pat on the back for that. But the other thing is really the way that the market is accelerating, and the number of employers that we are talking to who are deeply committed to creating this culture of opportunity, creating and harnessing internal mobility. Like, that number has gone through the roof. And honestly, the other side of the equation is that workers are demanding it, right? Like the social contract between employees and employers have shifted radically, and it's no longer enough to offer a living, a wage. It now, employers need to demonstrate that they are invested not just in we call it the pay for today, but the pathways for tomorrow. So we are really experiencing sort of a tectonic movement in the marketplace in terms of what the demand is for this type of solution for workers. So that's, I think, what drove the ability to fundraise. In terms of how we think about the funds, largely we think of the funds as kind of rainy day funds. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, we are deeply committed to our mission. We have a long-term view. We are, fully embracing stakeholder capitalism. So we are want to develop and need to develop a responsible business, and we need to deliver against our mission. And that's a long-term view. And so the funds are really simply to ensure that we can continue to invest in the solution and the opportunity that we see, so that we can get this type of skilling and mobility available to millions and millions and millions more people.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. And I think the point that you brought up about WorkTech and about the market and how investors are looking at companies like Guild that align with really the future of work is used a lot, and many times it's just about the technology, but really aligning with the demands that workers are making about their careers, and the direction that employers are going with their focus. I'm still seeing, I track all of the growth capital, and I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop. But what I'm seeing are, if there's a shift, it's to companies like Guild who have that focus. So that's a really good point that you bring up, and we'll be unpacking that at WorkTech in the coming weeks and months. But strategic funding, keeping some powder dry, and giving you the ability to invest in a very uncertain time. Are there any specific ideas about what's next, or the product that funding may or may not be necessary for?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you see us when we talk about ourselves as a career opportunity platform, it really does mark an evolution of our solution, not just to make available and support the success of core education and skilling, but also to connect the dots between that and the actual job. So 90% of the learners who come to Guild are doing it because they want career advancement. They want higher paying jobs. They want to see a future for themselves that has more economic opportunity. And so where we have been investing a lot in our platform, and where we will continue to double down, is on this career mobility piece. So that involves quite a few things, right? It involves some of the things I was touching on earlier around the skills inventory and helping frontline workers really deeply understand what they're bringing to the table, and how it sets them up for success. It involves the mobility pathing. So oftentimes, we think about gateway, we think about where you start, then you have a gateway job, then you have a next job, and the next, and then there's kind of a destination. And so really mapping out those pathways, and making them available to people in a highly dynamic, very modern user interface is a big part of where we are investing right now. And then I would say the last piece of that is the integrations required with all the other systems that our employers are using around, their internal job postings and all these and everything else that they're doing on their end to try and help make sure that existing employees have visibility and access to the jobs that are available. So as I said, we were already doing that, and we will continue to do it. And the funds simply sort of ensure that we can do it and do it in the right way.
Great. So I was going to ask you about the ecosystem and where you fit. And it sounds like you talked about integrations and systems used throughout the life cycle, and you've that it seems that you're already committed to to that ecosystem approach and being integrated. Are there any areas that you're particularly focused on?
In terms of the ecosystem, I think there are so many. I mean, it's sort of a boundless set of opportunities almost in the ecosystem, a little overwhelming, to be honest. Yeah. There are some systems that we know we need to integrate with, sort of the big HRIS and other systems that large employers use. And then there are really so many exciting kind of smaller point solutions out there that are doing very, very compelling and very specific things for workers. For example, we have partnered with Future Fuel to provide a student loan optimization and student loan repayment benefit. And we are kind of in the beta with that with one or two of our employers right now. And that's a great example of that's really in line for us. We can tack it on to our solution and we can use our platform to make it available to employees when employers want to offer that as well. That's
great. That's great.
I might have just given you a scoop, so I'm feeling a little bit like,
oh boy, okay.
Did we announce that yet or not? I don't know. I might get in trouble. But anyway, that's a great example.
Okay. Well, if you really need me to, we can edit this later.
Okay, I'll let you know.
If not, we'll leave it. They'll hear it all. But well, that was great. And I think in thinking about where you're headed, I normally ask about sort of like the goal and the vision, but your mission is really sort of all encompassing in that. Could you, just for everyone, because I think it's a really important mission, could you restate that mission? And that's probably a good place to wrap up.
Yeah, our mission is to unlock opportunity for Americans through education, skilling, and career mobility.
Yeah, that is great. Now, is there any place in particular that everyone should go to learn more, whether it's about their, progress in their career, or an employer looking to access or learning more about this deal? Where should they go to find out more?
Yeah, we have a great website, guildeducation.com, and any user type can go there and navigate to the resources that are appropriate for them.
Great. Well, Natalie, this was a real pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to WorkTech and helping us tell the market about Guild and your story. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much.
Likewise. Great to meet you, George. Thanks for the opportunity.
Great meeting you. And thanks everybody for watching.